I'm Rainer Schulze, and I am an emeritus professor of modern European history and human rights at the University of Essex in Colchester, United Kingdom. And I also was the director of the Human Rights Center at the University of Essex for a number of years. I was asked by the organizers to put the discussion about the Rohingya genocide in a slightly broader context, taking my Holocaust expertise as a starting point or as the framing of what I was talking about. So what I tried to talk about is the Genocide Convention was not modeled on the Holocaust. It didn't address just the Holocaust, but it wanted to address all genocides, no matter where and when they occurred. So I was talking about using the Genocide Convention, as flawed as it might be, and in certain parts it certainly is, as a framework for identifying genocides, using the criteria set out in the Genocide Convention in order to come to a categorization. According to the Genocide Convention, genocide is any act or series of acts directed against the destruction, wholly or part of, a specific group of population. And what is important is that it is not just the actual killing, but it is also the intent to destroy. It is a conspiracy to destroy. It is also incitement to destroy. So at the heart of the definition of the Genocide Convention is the perpetrator, the state that orchestrates intentfully the destruction of a specific group of population, racial, religious, or ethnic. According to all the reports that we have received over the past years, and it is not just since in the previous like 2, 3, 4 months, we are looking at genocide happening. And I think the academic community plus the human rights community are pretty much in agreement about that. The problem is that the international community, the states that signed the Genocide Convention, about 150 altogether, none of them have clearly come out, with maybe a few exceptions. President Macron of France have come out and stating that this is genocide. Because if you, under the Genocide Convention, agree that genocide is happening, there is an obligation to act, either to intervene or to stop it by any means that would stop what is going on. So whilst on the one hand, most of the reports that we have based on what is happening on the ground clearly point to genocide, the states that need to come to an agreement on that have not come down on that line and said, yes, it is genocide happening here. So that again is in a way the weakness of the Genocide Convention, that whilst it is important that we have this international framework that 150 states signed and ratified about what constitutes genocide, it needs the international will to actually enact it, and that will is all too often just simply not there. But it gives us as activists an opportunity to use the framework and to campaign on the basis of an internationally signed treaty between 150 or so states to actually appeal that this now needs to be used in order to prevent what is happening in Myanmar. Not quite. What I was talking about was the situation here in Germany, and specifically in Berlin, where we have a number of monuments and memorials reminding us of the Nazi persecution of various groups of population. But we don't have a comprehensive Holocaust memorial, such as you would find in many other places, but we have memorials that remind us of the fate of specific groups. The main memorial at the heart of Berlin is the memorial to the murdered Jews of Europe, But besides this main memorial, we have a memorial to the persecution of the Sinti and Roma. We have a memorial to the persecuted homosexuals. We have a memorial to those killed in the so-called euthanasia killings. This is a separation of victims, and this almost leads to a hierarchization of victims, which I find disastrous because it holds the danger that we actually miss the overall picture of what was going on during the Nazi regime and what is going on in many places of the world, that the aim is a homogenization of society, and everyone who is not regarded as belonging to the society that those in power want to set up are being othered, are being excluded, and in the worst scenarios are being murdered, killed, suffer genocide. And I also find this important with regard to Myanmar and many other countries, because usually it is not just one group of population that is being attacked, that suffers atrocities, but it is often a number of minorities, marginalized people that are under attack. And we need to come to an understanding that this attempt to homogenize, and this tendency seems to have grown again for a number of reasons in the past, 5 or so years, that this stands behind these atrocities. That's how we learn from the past in order to build a future which is hopefully based on inclusivity and diversity. I still have to come to terms with that, to be perfectly honest. I was involved in the Brexit campaign. I was involved as one of those academics who fervently fought against Brexit, and I was part of the team that my university set up in order to provide expert opinion to the press and the wider public, and we were not called upon because, as you rightly said, the public was fed up by experts. And I think we haven't quite found an answer to that yet, how we react to that, that when we know that we very rigorously go through reports or we do the field work ourselves, whichever might be the case, that this very intellectually rigorous process is being questioned and is being rejected as fake news. It's something that in my long career as an academic, but also as a human rights campaigner in various fields, I have never experienced to the extent that we have now. And I have a feeling I don't have any answer to this yet. And I don't think that anyone has any answer to that, that all of a sudden we are being excluded. And often, of course, with reference to the fact that, oh, your predictions have never come true. And you're just scaremongering, and therefore it's fake news.